Hello everyone, what's shaking, what's baking? So, today I want to take this cute little bugger here into SubstancePainter using the UDIM workflow. And in order to do that, we will have to prepare this little bugger here a little bit to make it properly compatible. Well, it is already compatible, but make it properly compatible with the UDIM workflow. Okay, so in order to do that, I first suggest either not saving your file here or work in a copy of your OpenPony file. Which one you use is entirely up to you. We only need the body and intact UVs, and I think that's the case for all the files that are in the dev kit. So let's first get rid of a few meshes that we don't need, at least not specifically for this one. You can possibly do something else. So I will just go in and hide everything I don't need. So I am selecting and pressing the H button. Don't need this and don't need the eyes. And now I will go into the outliner, pony head. No teeth, no tongue, and I think no, there's more. There's more. Oh. Force of habit. just undo the little wiggle I did. Oh God, no, the wiggle. Okay, and now that's only the body. All right. Let's do this the easy way. So I just want everything in one single piece of mesh. So let's just select everything, shift select everything. So hold shift down, select, and keep on selecting. And now on the outline I can see the body 4. Naming conventions are very important, so I will just grab everything and see if I have everything. Yeah, I do. Whatever body 4 is, I do not know. Okay, now I want to join everything together into one single mesh. I do that by holding down Control and pressing the J button. So now we have the body 006. Descriptions will probably vary for your own thing, depending on what you selected last will be the main description here. Okay. Now we need to erase every material except for maybe one, but even that's not necessary. So I will just tap into this here. It's the material properties, little red ball, and just smash that minus button to have no material there. I will go into that in a little bit. And now we need to prepare the Udems. So for that I will go into one of these 4 corners here of the viewport where the mouse changes to a Corsair, and just click and drag another viewport out. Go up here to the editor type and go into the UV editor. And I don't need the N panel, I don't need the T panel. Okay, so now we have that. I will go into the edit mode on my still selected mesh, which is either the tab key or up here edit mode. There is where we want to be. I just noticed it also joining these together also changed it all to the stallion. But that shouldn't be an issue. It's still the same UVs after all. Okay. Now we need to go in and select exactly half down the body of this pony. Now, since we already have these sweet UV seams here, we will make use of that. Which means that up here we have the select modes. We have vertex select and edge select and face select, or if you're a hotkey type like me, you would press Control Tab and you have your mesh select modes. Make sure you are in face select mode. And when you hover your mouse over the mesh and press the L key, it will select everything inside of the seam, or rather the UV island. You see this red line here? That is now selected. So just go around L, 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 whoa, L, and there we go. Half of the pony selected. There's other ways you can do this. Personally, I found this to be the easiest way. Hoovies! L, L, there we go. Okay, now we have half of the pony selected. The other way is to go into wireframe mode, either by this icon up here. This icon up here, or rather this entire line, this bar up here, is probably down here for you. If you like it up here too, just hover your mouse over it and press F5. That way you will switch it back and forth, top and bottom. The same can be done with the N panel, where you can switch the N and the T panel around if you prefer it that way, or just want to confuse your fellow viewers. I would totally do that in my dev kits. Okay, so yeah, you could just go into the wireframe mode and select half of it with a drag select, or maybe just hammer down that L key while you hover your way over it. That works too, because in wireframe mode it will just select everything where your mouse hovers over, and since you can look through the mesh, it allows you to select like the butt cheek over here. But we don't need that. So wireframe or not, it's up to you. Select deselect is just me pressing A, the A key. So A is either select all or select nothing, or in the case of this here where I already have something selected, deselect everything that is currently selected. And in Blender, which is a nice thing to do, you can undo your selection mistakes you did, which is very nice. Okay, back to the original topic. So now that we have half of this body here selected, we also have only the selected pieces here in the UV port, UV editor, and we want to have everything here either on this side or over here or over here. Where you place them is entirely up to you, but it needs to be in this region, and it needs to be exact. So we want to place this exactly one UV space up here, or exactly one UV space to the right, or one UV space diagonally. In order to do that, we will press the A key to select everything, press the G key to grab it, press the X key to move it along the X-axis only, which is in this case left and right, and Y is up and down. So X for left and right. And then we will meticulously watch the number over there in the, like here, and just be very, nah, fuck that. We will press the 1 on the keyboard, either numpad or the numbers above the letters, which will align this perfectly to X1, which is the exact same space that we had in the we have over here. And then press the Enter key, and that's it. And now, when we go into the 3D viewport, press A twice, we will have something that looks like this, or rather, it will look exactly like this. So everything that is here used to be exactly here. And since we are working on a mesh body that is already existing, this is very important. That we mirror, in quotation marks, this over exactly one UV space unit and not a little bit or close to exact. Needs to be exact. As said before, you could also put this here or here. It does not matter at all. Okay, that's it for the setup of the body. And we just tab. Oh, so in edit mode you are the stallion. I just noticed that. Okay, so in edit mode you are the stallion, and in object mode you are the mare. Okay, well, that doesn't matter. Not for our purposes anyway. Okay, now that this preparation is complete, we need to export this out. Now, for SubstancePainter specifically, your export format doesn't matter. SubstancePainter will use DEA, which is the Second Life export. It will use OBJ. It will use FBX. Almost certain it will use the STL2, which is the 3D print format, as far as I know at least. It really doesn't matter. So, File, Export, OBJ, Wavefront. Okay, it already take the directory of the dev kit for me. Now this here is important. Limit to selection only. If you do not tick this, it will export every single mesh in the file. So everything here will be exported. If this happens, don't worry. Just sit back, grab a tea. It may take a little while longer. And just re-import it again, re-export it again, and just overwrite the file. Don't worry about it. It happens to every one of us. Avastar exports already have that ticked by default, which is very, very nice. However, if you are manually exporting anything out of Blender in any format, always make sure to hit selection only in every Blender. Okay, let's just give this a nice name, like OP Bernie for SP, SubstancePainter, yeah. Enter, enter, export. And now we will have two files. An MTL file, which will always be created for an OBJ file. It carries additional information. And we will have a another file, which is about 1.2 megabytes big, which will only contain the mesh for the pony. Let's drag this over here. SubstancePainter. Okay. This is my SubstancePainter for the Steam version 2020. If you have a newer one, the interface may look a bit different. The workflow will, however, be the same. Okay, so how to get this into SubstancePainter? Now, there's a long way of just File, New, and click your way through all of this jiggle-magiggles here. However, the easiest way and also the most intuitive way, drag and drop. It's awesome. Okay. Now, document resolution. 1024 for Second Life specific work or Second Life only work is totally fine. Second Life will downscale everything you put up, like in 2048 will be downscaled by Second Life to 1024. If you want to do the downscaling yourself in order to maybe squeeze out a little bit more texture crispiness, you're welcome to use other resolutions like 2048 or 4096. You may see some variations of crispiness when you compare the textures next to each other inside of Second Life. So when you downscale from a 4K map down to the 1K map, and then compare them side by side, you may see a little bit more crispiness on the downscaled one. If you did the downscaling with Photoshop or whatever 2D program you're using, then you may see a difference. If you let Second Life handle it, it looked terrible. So 1024 should be your working resolution, so you also know what to expect inside of Second Life, because you are seeing how things will look inside of Second Life. Okay, so 1024. Normal map format, OpenGL. DirectX is flipped, so that means when you are painting something that bumps inside in DirectX, it will be outside in OpenGL and vice versa. Second Life uses OpenGL, so we use OpenGL. And this is the important one. Use UV tile workflow and preserve UV tile layout per material and enable painting across tiles. This is what we prepared for. The last, 15 minutes, 16 minutes. This is the moment. Okay. So make sure you have this here checked and this here ticked, and then just press OK. Let's make this a full screen, and there we have it. This is how it's supposed to be looked. This is supposed to be looking like this. English, weird. So we have one material here and 2 UV maps. Yeah, pretty much. And now we can paint everywhere. We can paint across seams. We can paint on the body itself on the UV map, and it'll nicely show up. We also have a nice mirrored mode, so we can do fancy stuff like this. And if we don't want to anymore, we can do this, which is very nice. If we did not do this setup here, it would be like having the perpetual mirror active, which in some cases might be enough. No argument there. In other cases, however, it won't. Having this setup here also enables us to do fancy stuff like this, for example. So I'm just going through this. Height is uniform. Let's get this down a little bit, and add a black mask, and add a fill, and grab a grayscale, and clouds. Okay. Let's make this a bit more prominent. Can I get sharper clouds, please? Yeah, that looks good. That should pick up nicely in the thingy jiggles too. Come on, high contrast. Okay, should be good enough. So the thing that we have here now is that we have a butterfly effect, because right now it will do the UV projection, which is it will take its texture that we currently cannot see, and will use the same texture here and the same texture there. So we have, well, the seam here in the middle is a bit unsightly. It won't be as prominent in the original or when you export. It'll be there, but not as strong. However, the butterfly effect, that's why we did this. We want to mitigate the butterfly effect. Like you see this, when you have this one over here and this one over here, and it looks all butterfly, almost Rorschach. I see kids playing on a meadow of lava, ashes and guts. Yeah, so in order to not drive people crazy, we will change the this here to triplanar projection, and now we still have the seam, but we don't have a Rorschach anymore, because it is projecting this texture from each direction of this sweet little cube here, which also allows us to do this here and other fancy stuff. But that's going too far. Okay, so much for that. Now let's go to the export options, because that is, or rather the shading stuff. So right now the default is set the base color, metallic, roughness. These three here are not needed for the Second Life specific workflow. So we will just hit the minus here, grab the plus here, pick the diffuse. We will pick the specular, and we will pick the glossiness. Those are the 5 channels that we need: normal, height, diffuse, spec, and gloss. And we also need to make an adjustment here, which is this one here, non-PBR spec gloss. That is the shader we are going to use for Second Life specific work, because Second Life does not have any sort of metal or roughness. It uses this specific shader. The only difference between this shader and Second Life is that Second Life also has alpha blending, and this shader inside of SubstancePainter does only have alpha masking, not alpha blending. But that's like about the only downside of it. So essentially what you see here is what you will get in Second Life, in all its weird glory and pixelated things when you zoom in close and then all the other jazz. But it'll give you the best representation of what to expect in Second Life, instead of you having to tinker and mingle with it looks good in SubstancePainter, let's see how bad Second Life will mangle my poor textures. So that's the way to go. When you're using materials, just to get over this query, let's use this here. Let's just drag this in. You will see something like this when working with the non-PBR one. That is because all of the materials, or a majority of the materials, the smart materials and the normal materials that SubstancePainter comes with, are meant for the PBR workflow. So what you will have to do is you will have to change the diffuse color on the materials, and maybe have to tinker with other things as well, especially when you are using one of these. Had a parameters and one's blending. Give me a second here. There are a few. Yeah, here, channels mapping. A few materials will come with a specific channels mapping, and you will have to make use of that if you want to have the material look pretty. There we go. In this specific workflow here, or this specific shader, because the diffuse will sometimes need the base color. Not for this material, the concrete, but there will be other materials where you have to channel, or rather replug diffuse into base color in order to make it pretty. So there for that. And also here we have nice Rorschachs going on, which can be pretty, no denying that. Also for that, triplanar. And the madness is gone. Magic. Okay, exports. So file, export textures, or Control-Shift-E. So SubstancePainter is a industry, or one of the industry standard programs for painting textures. It does have a lot of output templates. None of the ones it comes with is for Second Life specific. I suggest tinkering and making your own. It may look like this here. So you would grab the RGB plus A, name it, that's very important to write your name into this, and you would just drag what you need, like the diffuse channel over here that we are using. Drag this into RGB, and and tell it to use the RGB channels, and opacity would be this here, or alpha channel, and either use the gray channel or the alpha channel. Alpha inside of SubstancePainter is a gray channel, but you should get results with any of these, so gray or alpha channel shouldn't matter. I'm not using alpha too often, so I don't quite know. So there, and this would be one of the output things now that you would be getting. For the normal map, let's delete this again. So the normal map should be this here, because this here will combine your height information and the normal information. So for channels, just to get into this, we have not yet enabled the normal. I hope the camera can pick this up. Actually, let me do this. Yeah. So when we go over here, this is the material picker and also the channel picker. When we go to height, it's a gray map. When we go to normal, it's currently not set to anything because normal is not active. So that's how the normal map looks, and this is how the height map looks. And this here is what we want. We want a combination of both textures, and we only get this combination here when we are using, that was me pressing the short key, when we are using this one here, the normal OpenGL, because that will combine the normal map and the height map to one map. This here is a bit more advanced. This is the export that was given to me by Darksiders Alexander, the head of process of elimination. Awesome texture work. It's the best, at least as far as I'm concerned, especially for sci-fi stuff. So this one here combines the diffuse channel, which is this one, and the emissive into the alpha channel, because that's how Second Life operates in the end, right? When you want to have something that is glowing inside of Second Life on the diffuse channel, on the diffuse texture, you will have to use alpha. So in that case, he'll grab emissive, the gray channel of emissive, and put that into the diffuse. So this is RGB plus A, this preset here, and just here, like so. RGB channel, emissive, gray. And then the naming convention over here. Then we have the normals, which is also this one here. And for the environment slider, when you use shininess, especially very necessary for metal, he uses the gray channel of the glossiness, and specular is just RGB. So he would just grab this one here and plug the specular here. And I say plug because it's essentially a little bit like a node setup. A little bit something about the exports of these here. So Second Life internally uses JPEG 2000 or JP2K or JPS2 or JP2 or whatever these things are. Might be all different. JPEG 2000 is a bit of a weird ass. When I tried to upload JPEG 2000, Firestorm crashed. That was my one and only attempt. However, the arguments are that you need to save in 16-bit TGA for Second Life because that's the non-plus, wait, that's TIFF, TGA Targa, that's the non-plus ultra for Second Life. You will get the crispiness, best fried textures ever. And the other camp is like, yeah, just use PNG for everything, and I'm fine. And the reality of things is, use whatever you want. The technical background is PNG uses switches between using this format here of storing its information and between this format here of storing the information. It's also capable of storing this sort of information or this sort of information. So it's quite versatile and can do any of these. PNG also leads to a much smaller file size, but you won't see any difference inside of Second Life. Targa can only do this here, so R and G and B and A, which means you have a much larger file size, and that's it. That's the whole premise. It is not capable of doing any magics. The textures will look just as crisp as with PNG. As for the color depth, 8 bits is more than you need. Everything that is above 8-bit, I don't know what dithering exactly does. I know what the dithering is, but I don't know what exactly it's creating here for this. May look better, may look older, I don't know. When you're using 16 bits, you have a more lossless compression when you are not using when you're not working for Second Life specific stuff. However, Second Life will downscale and decrease the bit depth of your files to 8-bit anyway. So what's the point? If you're not using a 10-bit screen, you are using an 8-bit screen anyway. So the banding you see on your screen is also the banding everyone else will see in Second Life. There's no point in going up to 16-bit. Unless, of course, again, you're doing stuff for more than just Second Life, then ignore everything I just said. For Second Life specific, these settings here are all you need. You will not gain any better magical textures out of that if you're going for 16-bit and Targa or what have you, BMP. Okay, so that concludes this tutorial. A little bit of Second Life, technical background, a tiny bit of how to do things in SubstancePainter. Very tiny bit. There's a lot. There's other tutorials that cover a lot more SubstancePainter than me. That was not point of the thing that I made. It's really just getting these things done, exporting them. Actually, export. Always make sure to pick your folder. There we go. Pick the output template. Let's go with this one. Based on output template. So that'll be PNG. The size will be 1024 by 1024, which is nice too. That's where we have gotten to this. List of exports will just tell us which textures it will be exporting. In this case, we should, on the output templates, also put our texture set. That is nice. And I want my cursor to be here. And add the cache UDIM. Oh, you little. So there. And now we will have also the UDIM texture set automatically set up for us. Export. And here we go. Now this one looks a bit different from what you're used to because of the alpha channel, and you may also in the preview in the Second Life window not see a texture because of the alpha channel. But that's not an issue. Don't get confused by this. Wait, looks like this. Oh, super fancy. Super interesting. If you are not using, let's say we are using my old one, the one that I created, the non-PBR export. Silly me. Okay, here we have the diffuse. That's how the diffuse looks when you don't have an alpha channel. that is the old one. Yeah, this is my, from me, this is the normal map how it's supposed to be looking. And yeah, that's a spec map because there's nothing to it. We didn't add any specs. Okay, that concludes the tutorial for the OpenPony specifically. If you have any questions, do not shy away asking around in the OpenPony Discord, or write a comment into the YouTube underneath. I will hopefully read it sometime, sometime, probably, maybe. Don't subscribe, because there won't be any new content in any sort of interval. I will just do content whenever I feel like it. It is either asked or necessary, so don't bother. I'm being honest here, don't worry about that. Yeah, that's it. Have a good day. Bye-bye.